What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be MLB, NHL, NFL, or NBA. And we're here to talk. Nick, obviously, we've been talking about the home run derby, but now we officially get the full stage set right here on this list. And boy, it's a good list. I like it. There's definitely some interesting names, like we talked about, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt, but they bring back Adolis Garcia. We obviously have Gunnar Henderson, Marcell Ozuna. So I'm excited to see who you like, coming out of this. But should be definitely an interesting one.
Yep, we've got. I was a little, surprised, but when I heard the name, I was like, oh, that makes sense. When we got the hometown Adolis Garcia in Texas, so that'll be fun to see. A hometown name, or obviously he's not from Texas, but playing for that home team. But I think it's going to be fun. Like, we've got Jose Ramirez. Is he going to do like the switch hitting aspect where he hits from both sides? Gunnar Henderson's an exciting one just because he's, one of the top young players in the league. Same with Bobby Witt. Pete Alonso's a guy who's won it before. So I think there's going to be a lot of entertainment in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. A couple of names I like. Polar Pete, obviously, because he's won it a couple times. I also like Teoscar. I like Ozuna and Garcia. I think those are my top four right now because even though Henderson mashes the baseball, I just feel like a big dude always wins it, just the guy that's got the, just can smack it easy. So We'll see what happens, though, when, the full bracket, obviously. We'll make predictions probably on Home Run Derby Day. But overall, should be very fun. They got a lot of good names in here, and I'm excited to see, they bring in a hometown kid. So obviously teams are going to be rooting for Adolis Garcia or the fans, watching because they might be Rangers fans.
Yep.
But that will be fun. Overall, one of the, more entertaining things about All-Star Weekend Home Run Derby, just see who can match. It's always fun, but there always is that concern after, did their swing, kind of get carried away.
Right. Right.
So that
I think we see that, when I'm thinking of who I'm just early predictions, because, it's still, like a little less than a week away. You got to look at the teams that aren't in the playoff race in that home run derby, because those are the guys that are really going to be gunning for it. Because a guy like Gunnar Henderson, he doesn't want to mess up his swing for a team that's, as we can see, they're the top in the American League or, out at home. So I'm thinking a guy like Adolis Garcia or Pete Alonso is really going to – I think those are probably my two top picks just because, they're on teams that are meh. They're not really playing for much. So this would be like their, crowning achievement of the season.
It should be interesting. Yeah, you're probably right. That's why I always like Polar Pete because, the Mets are never going to do anything. So with that being said, Nick, obviously, though, it's the kind of that time we get later into the week, head into wrap up these series and head into the weekend series. We have, our standard MLB weekly check-in where we kind of just go through, see what teams are hot, what's kind of stood out a week-to-week basis, and see kind of what's cooking. But with that being said, Nick, obviously Baltimore still kind of hanging 2 up on the Yankees. The Yankees have kind of still been struggling 3-7. They do get one on Tampa Bay yesterday, but overall, Baltimore, I don't want a victory lap on our early season predictions, but even when the Yankees, were red hot, 5 games up on Baltimore, we stuck to our guns. Knew Baltimore would come back just mainly because they're younger. I think they're more hungrier. They want that top seed. Now they have a 2-game lead. They even haven't been playing their best baseball. They're 5-5 with the Yankees. Are just 3-7, kind of just coasting right now. After that really hot start they got off to, but same can't be said for the Red Sox. They are 7-3 in their last 10. They've been feeling it. Took a tough one to the A's last night, but at the end of the day, as long as you win the series, you can't expect to beat every bad team a sweep, despite how bad the A's or the White Sox maybe.
Yeah, it was frustrating last night, but like we always say, 162 games in a season, you're not going to win every single one of them. So even if you'd like to win every single one against a team like the A's, it's not going to happen. The Twins, I know they dropped one to the White Sox, but they picked up the one. I believe they split yesterday.
Yeah, they won the second game.
So
yeah. Speaking of that, obviously Rays and Blue Jays are kind of just whatever at this point. So that's kind of just been kind of irrelevant most of the season. So,
Yeah.
the Guardians have kind of cooled off a little bit, but they're still 5-5. But overall, still 5 games up on the division. They have some wiggle room to work with. But, still a great season so far for the Guardians. Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, all balling. The pitching has been getting it done. So, gotta give the Guardians a lot of love. And then obviously my Twins are sneaking in there, 7-3 in their last 10, still playing some really good baseball. Picked up a win yesterday in the second doubleheader. So they win the Southside Series. They're now, like I said, against the A's or Athletics, even if you find or White Sox, especially because it's a division team, you're going to play them 11 times or even more than that. They've just played them 11 times right now, and I believe the Twins are 10-1 against the White Sox this season. So that's the definition of taking advantage of a bad team and just kind of pounding it with them and being able to come back down 2-0 last night to not lose the doubleheader, because losing both games still would not have been nice, even if you're 9-2 against them. You never want to lose 2, especially in the same day. So they're able to pick the win up because of Brooks Lee and Carlos Correa home runs. So shout out the Twinkies as they head to San Francisco that we may talk about, tomorrow's preview. Then Royals still playing solid baseball on a 3-game win streak after kind of going through a rough patch. And then obviously, Nick, the Tigers have been kind of, I feel like, around this spot all season, just a couple of games below 500. Play a little bit better, I guess, 7-3, but there's so much room for them to make up. I just don't even think it's possible. So, and then obviously the White Sox, sneaky dark horse contender this season. We'll see what they do. And getting to the next division, this division has definitely kind of flipped a switch a little bit. The Mariners have been struggling of late despite picking up 2 wins in a row. They're kind of, they've been kind of what they are, like 7 to 10 games above 500, just mainly because of their pitching. But the Astros have obviously picked it up 7-3, only 2 games back now. And I know we talked about, we may have been wrong about the Astros, but, we'll have to see what happens. And then kind of the biggest question mark, Nick, that I think people are looking for is the Rangers. Do they sell? Do they not sell? Given, obviously, Nathan Eovaldi, Max Scherzer. There's a lot of interesting players on this team. I know you talked about, if you haven't already, check out the Red Sox Talk on Time yesterday where you mentioned Nathan Eovaldi in a trade. Do they sell? But as soon as we mentioned them selling, they go on to win 5 in a row before losing last night. So, kind of is what it is. But we'll see what they do, because I'm very curious. Obviously, the reigning World Series champions. Do they give up some players, or do they say, we'll run this to the finish line, see what happens? That'll be interesting.
I have a feeling they're gonna try and stand pat, and because they really like the roster. It's been an unfortunate, very injured roster with DeGrom, and they just got Scherzer back, so they're hoping he can solidify himself again. But they're just hoping their core guys will come into their own, and then their injured guys will come back. Because I'm not sure what DeGrom's timetable is, but I want to say it's soon, because he got Tommy John early in the season last year. So I feel like it should be around now where he's
maybe August, maybe rehab.
Yeah, maybe he'll start making rehab starts after the All-Star break, and then if they can get hot, and when you get hot and then you add a guy like DeGrom, that's perfect. So they might just stand pat and play the cards they've got, but it's one of the more interesting teams because they have a lot of pieces they can deal out.
All right, definitely one of the more interesting teams.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, Angels Athletics stand strong. And then moving to the NL East, the Phillies have kind of just obviously 60 wins, best team in baseball. They've kind of just been that. We kind of, don't need to touch on them too much right now because we've obviously given them their praise. But obviously, Bryce Harper, Alec Bohm, just a bunch of dogs on that team right now. They're kind of putting it all together this season. Also, though, Braves, going to give them a shout out because they've been playing good baseball since Acuna went down. They've kind of been holding the ship steady and, are still a solidified wild card team despite all the injuries, despite, Matt Olson having a little bit of a down season. And a lot of these guys, Austin Riley's been picking up of late, but a disappointing start. Mainly because they're pitching. Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, they've really picked up the slack. So shout out the Braves kind of if the lineup can get healthy in the right time in the playoffs, and they have a more caliber pitchers ready for the playoffs, maybe this team does better than we expect heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with Lopez and Sale really saving that team. If they are pitching like just mid pitchers, that team's probably the Mets are probably jumping right over them for that 2 spot. So huge shout out to those guys.
Yep. And then next team, the Mets and Nationals Nationals and Marlins especially or whatever. Nationals are just kind of falling apart a little bit, but the Mets hanging around for wild card spots. So shout out them after a really
only half
bad
came
season.
out, so you never know.
Yeah, no, hanging in there, but overall, almost everyone's still in wild card contention. So I'm not going to, say, give them their too much credit, but they did bounce back from that slow start. NL Central, Nick, I feel like, we've kind of always just, passed by the Brewers, rightfully so, because they've always been, the top of, one of the weaker divisions. But the Brewers, 15 games above 500 right now. They're playing some good baseball. And overall, this team is just always really good in the regular season. I'm curious to see if they're pitching. Christian Yelich having a career year again. Average-wise, obviously, the power isn't what it was back in 2019, but he's still a really good player. So overall, can the Brewers do something come around these playoffs? That'll be interesting to see because we know they're really good in the regular season, but that question mark will be the playoffs. But overall, I think they've even kind of surprised us and a lot of people because a lot of people are expecting this team to regress. Maybe the Cubs, Cardinals ready to take that next step. But, boy, they're easily win this division right now.
Yep. I think they're gonna. It's gonna be the one division I think that maybe they're in the next division we're looking at where they kind of. It's never really gonna change or be any sort of race. The one thing I know the NL East is kind of Phillies dominated right now, but like we've seen the past few years where the NL East race just heats up in like the last month and a half of the year. Like I'm pretty sure 2 years ago when the Braves or 3 years ago when the Braves
came back on the Mets.
Yeah, the Mets were like way ahead at this point in time, and then the Braves just took off in the second half of the year and ended up jumping them. So I'm not going to, the Braves are keeping themselves in the race, so I'm not going to say that division race is over yet. I know the Phillies are playing incredible, but things can change in a win.
I like it.
But with this division, with the Brewers, I think the Brewers
It's still been the same story, though, throughout this division. You look at the Cardinals run differential of a -38, Pirates -22, Cubs -13. Cubs have been playing better, obviously, recently, 3-game winning streak. And the Reds at a +25, but last place. It's like, how is this happening? Will this be sustainable throughout the whole 162? I don't know. I still think the Reds will come back in this division and at least finish top 3, but we'll see because, the Pirates have found a new energy since Paul Skeens came there. The Cubs have had a really disappointing year, but the Cardinals have just kind of bounced back after a really bad start. Sonny Gray has been a great addition to that team. And really, overall, their pitching, like players like Kyle Gibson, have been really solid. So I want to give them their props. They're just kind of finding ways to win those close games and keep themselves in the wild card. So shout out the Cardinals, I guess, for now. But we'll see.
You look at the expected win-loss in this division, and it's like so weird. Like the Reds, who are in last place, are expected.
They have the Cardinals expected last place.
Yeah, the Cardinals are expected to be 8 games under. Instead, they're 4 games over, and then it's the opposite for the Reds. So it's so weird with just the run differential and everything.
And I think it's may show like regression or positive regression for like someone like the Reds, but we'll see. And then last team, Dodgers. Or last division, obviously the Dodgers are comfortably ahead. Just kind of that offense is doing, but they're on a little bit of a skid right now. But we'll see. Shohei Ohtani doing some weird sus celebrations. Everything's good. Yeah, don't know what that was. So maybe we'll see what happens with the Dodgers after that. And then Padres. In the skid of their own, but they built a good cushion where they were like 7 games above 500, like peak of the weekend this upcoming week. They have it stinks they.
We might have hit a freeze. We having some technical difficulties at the moment. I'm not sure if Jake can hear me or he's frozen. Uh-oh.
Do you have any main takeaways?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you like froze. But just for this division, I think it's probably going to stay the exact same. Maybe the only, one that might be interchangeable is if the Diamondbacks get hot, but I'm higher on the Padres than most. I think they have a really talented team, and they're like one trade away from being, a top wild card team. Obviously, they're right in that wild card right now, and I think they can jump a team like the Cardinals, who I don't know if how the Cardinals are playing is sustainable. I don't think you can have a negative run.
When you look at the expected win-loss, that's what I like to see the most.
Right, exactly. So when you have a negative run differential, your expected win-loss is 8 games under. Like when the sample size is 162 games, you're gonna end up being who you're expected to be. And
yeah,
I just don't think the Cardinals, unless they make a crazy trade or somebody just explodes out of the second half, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and we'll get to see what time will tell because obviously, we've talked about how, through baseball 162 games, the cards will eventually fall into place. Unlike, football or something where it's only 16, 17 games, things may look a little funky and records may be a little spiked. But overall, should be very interesting as we head into the weekend series. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow where you probably give a weekend preview and a Red Sox recap. So make sure to tune in for that. But as always, we'll be here covering throughout any MLB trade deadlines approaching. So it's an exciting time. We should see hopefully some big trades soon that will be here to recap. But as always, we'll be here throughout the rest of the offseason because, baseball is the only current sport going on right now. So there's a lot to, cover on that end. But as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.